Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Headley Headspaces. The Headspaces are a series of thoughts and musings I have during the course of the week, and I chew all over them and I share them with you. And this particular headspace is called Iran is not likely to back down on this occasion, Israel. Before I jump into this week's show, I would ask for your patience this evening with me. I'm going to have a very short show this evening because I'm not in the slightest bit prepared. And one of the reasons I'm not prepared is because I had a bereavement. My cat of 13 years passed away. I had my cat for 13 years and it was a brother and sister. And the sister's still alive, but the brother passed away on Tuesday. And I'm just not prepared. And I've just been in that space since then. Usually before every show, my cats are here, Dexter and Coco, and I feed them and pet them. And sometimes during the course of the show, they might jump up on me. Or you've heard in the past where there was acrimony outside and I ran out and tried to sort it out because my Dexter, the cat that's passed, he was having a lot of problems with the stray cats. But what I want to do today is I want to continue to do the things that I would do if we were all together, the three of us. And you, of course. Me, Dexter, Coco, and you, the audience. So today, the show is going to be talking about Iran and obviously Israel. Or this element of the show is going to be talking about Iran and Israel. And then maybe later on, I'm just going to open it up for some general discussion about regular stuff. Maybe you want to talk about, I don't know, whatever. Tonight it's going to be a bit of a free night and I might just throw in a few things. But just to get things started, I would definitely say thanks for joining the show. Okay, I'm not my usual happy bubbly self, but I'm still here with you guys for this evening, and this show is just dedicated to my beautiful cat, Dexter. I love you, Dexter. This is going to have to be a quick one because boy am I pushing it to the wire. So this is my thoughts about what's going on at the moment. I think that Iran has said to Israel that effectively we are not going to allow you to attack us without retaliation. And the important part of this entire equation is that this conflict, Iran, in my opinion, have been waiting and preparing for the last 50 years. Because for the last 40 years, you've heard Mr. Netanyahu talk about the threat of Iran to Israel, and they have effectively worked with that as a preconceived idea. And I think that's the context upon which this conflict is kind of residing. The threat that Israel perceives from its neighbors, be they real or otherwise. And I think it's important to look at the question of threat. And the reason I want to talk about the question of threats is because I want to look at the historical context of conflict in that area and who has been the instigator of that conflict in the Middle East. Very quickly, I'm going to give you a brief summary of the number of wars started by Israel since 1948. So in 1948, there was the Arab-Israeli War, and the estimate of people who were dead were 10,000. Then you had in 1956, the Suez Canal. This was a war started by Israel. You then had the Six-Day War started by Israel, and between 15 and 20,000 people were killed. You then had Operation Litani in 1978, started by Israel. Then you had the first Lebanon War, started by Israel in 1982 to 1985. You then had the second Lebanon War, which was started by Israel in 2006. And then you've had the Gaza Wars from 2008 to 2024. And I asked DeepSeek, just out on an average, how many people have been killed? And they said that the higher estimate is 96,000. And I actually think that's actually fake news. It's way more than that. Let's just do a contrast with the number of wars that Iran has started. You had the Iran-Iraq war, and it was started by Iraq, but Iran, according to DeepSeek, prolonged it. And this begun in 1980 to 1988. Then you had the seizure of Abu Masu and Tanib Islands. This was in 1971. This was a war that began over the disputed islands after the British withdrew. This is way back in 1971. And the other one I told you was about in 1980 to 1988. And the only other direct response was in 2024 on the 14th of April, and 300 drones were fired at Israel, but that was because Israel had already struck Iran or its assets in a neighboring country. I think that was the attack on the actual diplomatic building last year. So what I'm saying and what I'm trying to point to is that Israel is the aggressor force in the region. And they have behaved aggressively once again in Iran by killing so many individuals in their scientific community on the basis that they are, months away from creating a nuclear bomb. The problem with this narrative and also with this action is that it has created a simmering hotbed of mammoth proportions across the world. You have the American president threatening to effectively kill the leader of Iran in a drone attack. You have Bibi Netanyahu raising false flags that President Trump is likely to be assassinated, and that's going to come via the Iranians. You have this whole conversation that Iran needs to return to the negotiating table when in fact they were at the negotiating table when they were being bombed. So why should they consider negotiations now with anybody? Because the crime of perfidy was committed, basically deception during negotiations during war. And perfidy is also a war crime. And you also have the resistance that Iran is undertaking, which I think is supported by many other parts of the global south and many people in the global north, I think actually are in support of Iran. And this is one of the reasons why I don't think they're going to back down. I think that there are too many, it's gone too far now for it to back down. I was listening today that Trump's saying that, I'm not going to enter the war for another 2 weeks. But I don't necessarily know if the negotiation period during that is going to be impactful, primarily because of the fact that Iran is a sovereign nation. It has every right to enrich uranium, and the nuclear program was actually being inspected. I mean, no one's inspected any of Israel's nuclear program, and America is no longer a treaty. Don't forget, Trump withdrew out of the treaty. I think it was the nuclear disarmament treaty, but it's a treaty that was going on for looking at how Iran was going to not use its uranium enrichment for a nuclear bomb, and America withdrew out of that under Trump's first presidency. So, and then you've got this whole conversation that they are the threat, when in fact it's clear that they are not the threat. They are the only country that's supporting the Palestinians with a designated budget for resistance. That's very true. They have been supporting the resistance against Israel, who is an aggressor state in the region. It's an ethno-apartheid state, and they fund the resistance against that. So that's a known quantity anyway. But the fact is that Israel has taken this action. They've behaved unilaterally, and now they want the waspy countries, the usual white Anglo-Saxon countries, to come to its aid. And we even have Keir Starmer sending over fighter jets to engage us in that war as well. Aren't we already engaged in the Ukraine, Keir? One war at a time, please, possibly. And these are the reasons, in my view, that I don't think Iran is going to back down. One of the other reasons I don't think Iran is going to back down is because of the importance of mineral reserves. And I came across this bit of information that I'm going to share with you now, because don't forget that the control of land is the colonial project. And as Israel expands, it expands with the all of the natural resources that are available in those areas. So we all know that there's gas deposits off of the space in and around Gaza. Israel has a problem with water. So therefore, you use those lands to take the water away from the indigenous community, you funnel it to your community. This is exactly the same thing that's happening with Iran. There's the prospect of rare earth minerals, people. Yes, we didn't hear that one. Let me just break it down for you. And put that in your purview when you hear people advocating for killing a leader of a sovereign country. as I heard being discussed on LBC. Oh yes, it's a evil regime. Give me a break, people. Anyway, let me play this for you and then you give me your thoughts on it.
I cannot stop thinking about this, but does anyone else remember just a few months ago in March when Iran's own state mining company announced that they had found the largest reserve of natural resources in the world? Which would of course be worth trillions of dollars. Yeah, after a decade of geological exploration, Iran found over 7,000 tons of a very rare and very expensive metal-like material with major military and advancement technological uses called antimony, which is a brittle silver-looking metalloid that exhibits both metal and non-metal properties that has the ability to strengthen and harden other metals, particularly lead. It's used in a whole range of products like match heads, batteries, bullets, ceramics, and even some medications that treat parasitic infections. It's used in night vision goggles and infrared sensors, and it's an essential ingredient in flame retardants and advanced electronic systems. This is a very rare and valuable mineral with wide applications, and according to Iran's own March report, they've discovered about 10% of the world's global supply, meaning that Iran has a huge, I'm talking huge, amount of this antimony. And wasn't it just 2 years ago that Iran announced that they had found large lithium deposits as well, which is used in cell phones and electric vehicles and is also worth a ton of money? And while we're on this topic, I think it's worth mentioning that the price of these materials is just going to continue to skyrocket significantly with the advancements in AI, military, and industrial technology. And here we are. I can't be the only one that finds it just a little bit coincidental that only 3 months after Iran announced that they had discovered the largest reserves of this super rare and super valuable mineral called antimony, Israel and the United States are now repeating their same tried and true line about weapons of mass destruction. All while Israel continues to wipe hundreds of thousands of people off of this planet, using bombs so strong and so advanced that they create their own earthquakes. And here's just one more thing to think about. There are an estimated 750 US military bases in at least 80 countries around the world. I went and looked at how many of those countries are rich in raw materials and natural resources. Maybe you should too.
So add into the mix rare earth minerals. And then it doesn't look so surprising the preemptive attack on Iran does it, and the tried and tested trope of weapons of mass destruction. I don't think that Iran is going to back down on this occasion. There's too much at stake. It's a founding member of BRICS, it has a deep relationship with China, and it also has a military treaty with Russia, and therefore it cannot be allowed to fall. It cannot go the same way as Syria, and I don't think it's going to end in that way. So what's your thoughts? Did you know about the rare earth minerals that Iran found? I didn't either. I only recently found that out. Do you think that Iran is justified in self-defense? I mean, it's okay for Israel to have self-determination, but clearly nobody else. And what's your thoughts about the statement made by Mr. Trump where he basically said to the supreme leader, we're not going to kill you today, but we're coming for you? Give me your thoughts, your 2 pence, your 3 cities, or your declining dollar price. And cut. Thank you for listening. That's for you, Dexter. Love you.